Welcome and thank you for joining us today. I'm Trellis Williams with TSJW Network, and I have a very special guest today. It is the coach of the Scott County Flames, Andy Boles. Thank you, Coach, for joining us.
Man, it is my pleasure to be able to join you. I'm impressed with all that you're doing, not only for the Muddy River counselors, but man, what you're doing for homeschool basketball through this is very impressive, number one, but it very much appreciated. And so on the behalf of homeschooling sports in Mid-South Athletic Conference, and I'm sure speaking on the behalf of a lot of different coaches and a lot of different players, maybe even players and coaches that are coming that don't even know yet. Thank you for what you're doing, man. I appreciate it.
Oh, I thank you for sure. So my first question I have is, so you founded the Scott County Flames about a decade ago. I know it was about a decade ago. So please just tell us the story of how the Scott County Flames came about and how you started it.
Absolutely. We are right now in our 11th season. And so several years ago, we've homeschooled all four of our children. Our two oldest sons have graduated high school and already gone through college. And I've got two at home now, a 17-year-old daughter and a 15-year-old son. So we've still got some homeschooling to do then. But one of the biggest things for us was any kind of extracurricular activity, because I grew up in a very athletic home and a lot of sports-minded influence in my life, primarily my father, who loved sports. And so as we were homeschooling our kids, one of the biggest questions came about was, what are you going to do when it comes, the City League age stuff is done with? What are you going to do for your kids? Yeah. And so my wife, Laurie, and I began just to kind of pray through this thing and look, and she started doing some online researching and found out that there was a group right outside of Jackson, or actually in Jackson, outside of our area, Scott County, that we could plug into called the Jackson Victors. And Jackson Victors is basically one of the main organizations for homeschool sports in the state of Mississippi, along with the Hattiesburg Forerunners, who I think both of those groups kind of started this whole explosion of homeschooling athletics in the state of Mississippi. And we decided that with our oldest son, whose primary sport was baseball, that we would just join up with the Jackson Victors and see how this homeschooling athletics would go, especially in the context of a competitive high school or junior high, junior varsity level of athletics, and how that looked like, along with just the homeschooling background to it. And so we joined the Jackson Victors to play baseball. And then the next year, my second to oldest son, Eli, said, "Dad, I would love to be able to play basketball." Now, I want to say that where we were living at the time was about 45 minutes from the Jackson area, and being a full-time pastor and wearing so many different other hats, it was going to be difficult for us to get back and forth playing not just baseball in the Jackson area, but also basketball in the Jackson area. And so me and my two oldest boys, Easton and Eli, were thinking one afternoon, it was like, why don't we just start a basketball team? And so kind of crazy idea, caught a lot of crazy looks from different people, but I'm just having the athletic background that I had, I knew all we need is 5 guys to hit the road. And so we prayed through it and decided we're going to do this. We started off practicing outside in a parking lot basketball goal court, and moved from there to a couple of open gyms that were available for us. And 11 years later, now we've got, this year, we've got 3 different teams at 3 different levels, both male and female. And we've gone from several locations, about 4 different locations from where we've played, kind of landing where we are this year. This is probably going to be where we stick for a while. The move that we've last made was due to some COVID situations, as I'm sure a lot of people are dealing with. But the idea of the Scott County Flames really was birthed out of our kitchen living room area, just with a dream and a desire to do something for my kids in particular, and then grew to understand that this is a whole lot broader scale than just my kids. There's a lot of kids in the state of Mississippi who deserve to play at a competitive level for homeschool athletics. That's kind of how the Scott County Flames were birthed.
Yeah, and just comment on the gym that you guys played in. I actually called the Muddy River Counselors and Scott County Flames game over there, and that gym, the gym's awesome out there in Carthage. It's a good gym.
It is. It is. Like I said, we started off in the Clifton Baptist Church parking lot shooting hoops, and it didn't have very good lighting, and it was unlevel pavement. From there to we used to play at the Lena Gym, which was a gym converted into a mattress factory, reconverted into a gym, but it was real nostalgic. Had old billboards painted on the walls and stuff like that. Great place to play. And then Ephesus Baptist Church just blessed us to be able to play there for several years and just made this transition. And it is getting better as we go. Just the availability of the gym, the size of the gym, the quality of the rims and the backboard. And so, yeah, man, God just seems to continue to bless the Scott County Flames. And I say the Scott County Flames, what we are moving toward is an idea outside of just Scott County, because currently we're not playing in Scott County, we're playing in Lee County. And so we've got some future things that we're going to find that's going to lead us to change. But, man, Scott County Flames, the heartbeat is a Christian athletic homeschool program that can minister to more than just teaching kids skills, but teaching kids Christ attributes. And so if we can use basketball to help kids understand the gospel and how to live godly lives, that's kind of our purpose.
Yes, that's very important. And so that actually brings up a question I have. So, you are a pastor at a church and stuff, and you started this as a ministry. Please continue to go in depth about the ministry of the Scott County Flames.
Absolutely. The last interview you had with Willis was really good. I watched it a few times, and man, I can just echo Willis's heart with the Muddy River Counselors, and not just that, but as his time was with Hattiesburg Forerunners and also the Jackson Victors. I know he has a strong passion that it'd be more than just basketball. And as a pastor, man, I was saved when I was 15 years old, gave my life to Christ, and surrendered to the ministry when I was 18. I'm 45 now. So I've been in ministry for a long time, for the majority of my life, and really done my best to let my life be purposed around the Great Commission of Matthew chapter 28, 19 and 20. My whole life mission is to lead as many people to Christ as I can, and those to whom God gives me, help them grow in Christ. And so that kind of permeates all throughout everything that I do, whether it's basketball, of course, in pastoring. I serve in different capacities in different ways. I'm also a part of a group called the 242 Network, which is a church planting network. So, of course, it's involved in that as well. But, when we started basketball, I learned real quick that it definitely has to be more than just basketball that we're focused on. Because if you're starting a program, most of the time, a program that is just getting started is not going to be a dominating force as far as competition is concerned. And so to be able to think on a smaller level, but also to be able to think on a deeper level. And so the first few years, there was some frustration, just not being able to compete like we wanted to. And the Holy Spirit really had to rein me in on the fact of there is a whole lot more happening during practices, traveling to and from games, eating meals together as a family after games, as a ball team family after games. And, those timeouts during the ball game, there's a lot of times to where during the timeout, I'm talking about basketball. Sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I'm talking about the character of the guys that I'm coaching. And so just making sure that every opportunity exceeds just the thought of basketball. I tell my athletes this all the time. 6% of high school athletes make it to the collegiate level, and that 6% that make it to the collegiate level, out of that 1% make it to the professional level. And so that's a very small percentage of high school athletes that actually make it to professional sports. Now, obviously, several do, because we've got professional sports now. And there are some professional athletes that are going to be on some of these homeschool teams. But the greatest thing that we can do in the moment of our coaching is to help these young players see that there's more than just me investing in my physical skills or basketball knowledge, but I can carry a character trait out of this into everyday life, especially if I do not make it into the professional level. A lot of these guys are going to be husbands and fathers, and a lot of these girls are going to be wives and mothers, and that is something that they're going to carry for the rest of their life, and that is the deepest part of who they are. And so that's just some of the things that we focus on as as a coach, as an organization.
Yeah, that's great. Now, yeah, I want to ask you some questions about your team. So, you have a young team that's been very, competitive this year, having competitive games and stuff, taking wins over Mount Zion and Rebel Academy and stuff. Now, my question is, now when you look at the season ahead, like what's the goal that you're pointing for your players to strive towards as a team?
Absolutely, man. I think that's a great question. This year, and of course, I keep thinking this year is so different because of all the stresses that we're going through with COVID and the changing locations and all that kind of stuff. At this current point, we haven't played as many games as what we had planned on, and especially what we normally would play. We've only played 9 games as a boys team, and so right now we're 4-5. One of the things that we do, and we've done this seasons in the past as well, Trellis, is we focus in a more micro way than a macro way when it comes to victories and how to prepare our guys for play. And by that, what I'm saying is we don't look at a season and say, okay, we're going to go 18-7 or 7-18. We look at it more like we want to win every play in every practice, and we want to win every practice so that we can play our best in every game. And so each situation provides for us an opportunity to be successful or to fail. And so even in the moments of success, we want to encourage and, pat on the back and say, keep doing that. And in moments of failure, we do our best to teach through that and help grow through that. But we just kind of approach things in more of a micro way to help each player become a better player. We get young players all the time who enter the program who literally struggle dribbling the basketball. And it's an awesome thing to be able to see a player go from struggling to dribble the ball half court to the end of the season having more control over the ball, and then seeing that player graduate their grade level each year and go from junior high, junior varsity to a varsity level, and go from that kid who could barely dribble to where there's a kid now who is dominating the basketball, brings the basketball down the court, or has it in his possession or her possession. And so just focusing on those things, good shot form, I think all of that, I tell my guys all the time, basketball, as far as their part is concerned, is like a puzzle. And if you put the puzzle together, when you're looking at a box full of pieces, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But when you begin to put the picture together and put the puzzle together, then all of a sudden it begins to make sense. Whether that is correct form in passing, in dribbling, in breaking down in defense, drop step, shot form, whatever it is, pick and roll moves, rebounding, that as they put themselves together as a puzzle. And a lot of kids have this transition age to where you're really learning yourself in the junior high level, junior varsity level. Your body's growing, and you're trying to get adjusted out of that awkwardness into more of a fluidness in your motions. And I just teach these guys, okay, this is how you respond to this, and this is how you put this together. And then when you're doing your part, you're trusting your brother on your team to do their part. And there's another bigger piece of that puzzle putting things together. When we approach a season, our goal is just to do our best to improve our play from play to play and practice to practice, game to game, and season to season. And I think that's one of the ways in which a team will be able to build a program.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's great. And so now at the varsity level, your teams have had some seasons where it's been a little bit some struggles, especially since your son Eli graduated a few years back. But this team, it's showing to be on the ascending, and you have young players, including your son Ellis, who is a friend of the show, of course. Who are playing big minutes for you and stuff. Now, how excited are you about the future of this team?
Oh man, I think these guys are great. It seems like at the end of every year, I think to myself, if these guys can stick together, next season, what the cohesiveness, there is a certain aspect of a gelling of a team with personalities and conversations and communications and how they play and the different skill set that they bring to a team. So when you got a group of guys who are raised up together in an organization, man, it's promising. And so we do have some great guys. We are missing some height these past couple of years. Eli did play. He graduated a few years back. He averaged, I don't know, I can't remember exactly, around 28, 30 points a game. So when you lose somebody that's scoring that much, of course, you've got to make so many adjustments to your team. And we've tried to do that. After that, Alex Mitchell came on, and we had so many good players after that as well. This year we've got a couple of seniors, but they're smaller seniors. They've experienced a lot of play building up to this year. I mean, we got Nathan Moody, who is probably one of the most energetic players we've got. A lot of speed, a lot of energy on the court. And then we've got Aiden Ledke, who is a great shot taker, presents the big body down low and rebounds really well. And so, yeah, we've got a great team. We've got a good future. Wesley Bell is going to be a senior next year. He's been playing with us just like Nathan and Aiden has since they've been able to come in at 12, 13 years old, 6th, 7th grade, and start playing with us. Then we've got Ellis as a point guard. He's got a few more years to go. He and Cole Mitchell has been playing together since way before we used to call them the Sparks to the Flames, because they'd be on the court playing and practicing, helping us when we were a younger organization and needed the help with bodies on the court. So we've got several of these guys coming up, and of course we've got even some younger guys than that are jumping in, and we're seeing a lot of potential. We've got Daniel Burns, who's a great player, great shot taker. One of the things that I'm so impressed with about the Flames, and it's been historic, but I see it a lot this year in particular, is these guys don't give up, man. They have such a just an unction to get on the court and to play and to give their all. This is the first team in probably the history of the Flames that I can go on there and say, okay, we're starting with the press, and we're going to do the press until I say we're not doing the press. And one of the victories that we had against Rebel, we beat Rebel Academy this year, 54-34, probably the greatest deficit we've been able to beat them by in our existence. We beat them in the past, but not quite as handily as this year. But we pressed 3/4 of that game, and I was leaving that game thinking, I feel comfortable knowing that this is the first team in 11 seasons that I can say we're going to press, and we pressed the whole game. And these guys, they wouldn't give up. I mean, they would keep on keeping on. And so, yeah, I think we've got a great future. I think we've got a lot of potential. I'm still looking forward to what the rest of this year holds. I think we're going to win play by play, practice by practice, and game by game. And I think that's going to be good for us.
Yeah, for sure. And also, you mentioned your son Eli. Now, I played against him, and the viewers might not understand how that went. I mean, he's like 6'3", 6'4", running up and down the court, dunking and blocking shots and stuff. So I mean, I remember.
Yeah. Eli was a little bit unusual as far as that size playing point guard like he did. Most of the time, if he would have been on probably another skill set team, he would have been in a different position, maybe a power forward or something like that. But with us and what we needed in the moment and the ball handling skills that he had, he needed to play point guard. So Eli had pretty good range. I think his senior year he dunked in all but 3 games. So he was definitely a force to be reckoned with, especially his senior year.
Yeah, for sure. So you mentioned this earlier about you did have some games get canceled. I believe it was 2. I'm not sure. I mean, I know how many, but overall, like, how has COVID affected y'all's season? Not just with games, but also practices when y'all started practicing, summer basketball. Just tell us how it's affected y'all's season.
Well, as a pastor, we've been approaching this whole COVID situation delicately. Our church around March, had to cease meeting until the end of May, May the 24th. We started having public gatherings again. And so as a coach, I'm thinking toward basketball and how is that going to affect basketball, and is there going to be a basketball season? And I'm really impressed that we are where we are as we've dealt with all that we've dealt with COVID. And so we start practicing like once a week after July the 4th, just kind of come together, very unorganized as far as practices would be considered. Our practices really start the Tuesday after Labor Day in September, and then we kind of kick it into full speed. We came in with a pretty strong protocol on what it looked like to be safe as we play basketball, knowing that COVID is around. There were several things that MSAHA, which is our conference, did to us. And the board, I think the board made a lot of wise decisions on that. And so we adopted a lot of that. We added some of our own protocol to that. And so the issue with COVID for us, we were supposed to be practicing tonight, didn't get to practice tonight, supposed to practice Thursday, not going to be able to practice Thursday. As a matter of fact, we haven't been able to do anything since a Grace Christian game the week before Christmas. And so we're gonna hit it again Monday with a practice. And so and a lot of this is COVID related. We've had probably 4 or 5 players who have had COVID. And this has all been since our first Laurel game. And I'm trying to remember dates on when all of that took place, but I think it was around the 1st of November. And so we've been dealing with it as best we possibly can. We want our players to be safe. We want our parents and fans and coaches and administration and all that to be safe and healthy. We know that basketball is not as important as an individual's life, but it definitely has affected our play time, our game time, our practice time. Now we've only had 1 game canceled, but we've had about 3 games, I think, rescheduled. And from what I'm understanding, that's real important. We weren't able to get the other game with Rebel rescheduled because they've got a packed January. They're in the MSAH, MISAA. Anyway, the private school, I can't remember what that acronym is, but they're in the private school ranks, and so they couldn't fit us in. But we've had to reschedule games with the Victors and the Forerunners, and so we're going to have a packed January. There's about 2 or 3 weeks in where we're playing 3 or 4 games a week, but that's going to be good for our guys as long as we can continue to be healthy, kind of stay away from COVID. And man, I tell my church this all the time. I hate COVID. I'm praying that God would eradicate our country and our world of COVID, and we'll get on past this. But as we're living in this, we're dealing with it as best we can and moving forward.
That's good. But so now y'all's next game. Now I'm wondering if this got rescheduled or not. But I know that y'all's next game on the schedule is on Tuesday against Grace Christian again, who y'all played last game. Now, so what's your game plan heading into that one? I don't give away too much. You don't want to.
Well, trust me, brother, I'm not. But I tell you this. With Grace Christian being our last game that we played, we were in a whole lot better position at that time than what we're going to be Tuesday, just because of the Christmas break and the delay in being able to come back and practice. I have a fear that we're going to be a little bit sluggish. I always promote to my guys, hey, be running, be dribbling, be shooting at home. If you can't do it with someone, pass the ball off a brick wall. You got to be active every day.
Yeah.
My son Ellis, I try to encourage him to get out there and shoot at least 100 times a day at the house. And so when we played Grace Christian the last time, man, they've got a really strong team this year. They did really well against us. They played with some intensity that we had not yet really met. Laurel plays with a pretty good bit of intensity as well, as far as pressuring you and pressuring the ball. And so Grace Christian's going to do that, man. Their coach that they've had this coach a couple of years, 2 or 3 years, and he's really turned the program around. They've got a lot of organization. They've got a lot of competitiveness that they have been lacking, in my opinion, over the past few years. So he's done a phenomenal job getting these guys organized and disciplined and ready on the court. if we go out there and play our game and not allow them to set the tempo or the tone for us, I really think we'll be fine. We'll be able to settle down into our style of play and be able to play. Now, with us, we run and gun is the best way we do things. If we can beat you down the court, that's best for us. We have several plays to where we try to expose the weaknesses of a defense, as I'm sure all coaches and teams do. But we're obviously going to start off pressing. We're obviously going to start off breaking the press. It's what we do every game. We're going to try to work the ball into the elbows. And I tell my guys, anytime we play somebody, because this is what we've done this year, Trellis, is our shooting has fluctuated between literally 6% inside the 2-point range to where it's been 68% inside the 2-point range. And so, man, that is a huge. In our 2-point. Now, I really don't even count a whole lot 3-point. Inside the 2-point, that is a huge, huge, huge difference. And so I tell my guys all the time, we need to shoot 3 to 4 times more than our opponent. And so what that means is this is basketball. You're not stopping a team from shooting the ball. So what we want to do is we want to eliminate the possibility of them getting offensive rebound. We want the offensive rebound. They get one chance. We get the ball. We come back, and then we want multiple chances on our offensive side. So we need to get some offensive rebounds down on our side, 2, 3, if necessary. And so if we put some pressure and keep the ball on our side of the court longer and wear them down a little bit more. Of course, they've got more players than we got. Man, we got 9 players most of the time. Really, we have about 8 players that are able to play.
Yeah.
And so if we can wear them down, then I think we're going to do well.
Yeah, for sure, and definitely pulling for y'all over here at the TSJW Network for sure. Thank you for joining us today, Coach. For sure. Thank you.
Man, I appreciate it very much. Keep up what you're doing. I think it's great. I appreciate the scores and the videos and all the commentating. So, Bud, I'm impressed and I'm thankful and I'm praying for you and I'm praying for this organization.
Yes, thank you very much, and thank you, viewers as well. Please check out the TSJW Network website. It's tsjwnetwork.net. You can go and check it out. It's got MSAHA news, standings, scores, and all kinds of stuff, even some games on there as well, if you want to check those out. And thank you for joining us, and join us again when we post again here on the TSJW Network YouTube. Thank you very much.